Welcome back to I'm Fun Now. I'm your host, Sazan Hendrix. And ladies, wherever you're listening to this podcast today, maybe you're folding laundry, maybe you're driving to work in your car, maybe you are sitting in the bathroom getting ready for the day. Wherever you are, I'm so happy you're here. And I'm so excited to say that, guys, this is episode 5 of this podcast. Oh my gosh. The time is flying, and it's true what they say, y'all. Time flies when you're having fun. And I am very excited today to just pull the curtain back, sit with you all, have a cozy catch-up session, and get into some really fun, real questions that you guys sent in today. So today is going to be a Sisterhood Chat Q&A with Saz, and I'm excited to get into that. But first, can we just kind of catch up a little bit? Since launching this podcast, y'all, it has been such a whirlwind of joy and excitement. It has brought me to come into this playground with y'all every week and to see that so many of you have been loving these episodes, the guests that we've had. Last week, we had 2 of my best friends in the playground. We've had my husband. And next week, little teaser, we're going to have my smallest guest yet here in the studio playground with me. Any guesses who that might be? All right, so I have to say that I'm wearing a sweater right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the video version of this podcast. And y'all, your girl is wearing a sweater and it finally feels like fall here in Tennessee. I don't know where you guys live. Comment in the show notes and let me know if it is feeling like fall where you are. Something about fall just gets me. I don't know. I'm a nicer person. I feel like I'm a little slower to move, and I'm just starting to really come out of what feels like a season of productivity and, go, and back to school, all that stuff. It's like finally we are smooth sailing and we are in fall now. It is the time to slowly but surely unwind and relax. But going back to the podcast launching, guys, it has been so exciting to see that you guys are loving this podcast. I just want to take a second to just kind of sit with it because, wow, we hit 36 on Society and Culture on Apple Podcasts. Number 36. We were literally next to Oprah Winfrey's podcast, and I cannot believe it. I actually saw that we ranked 36 on my 36th birthday. That was it felt like a God wink. And what does that really mean? What does that mean for us and for me and for this show? Obviously, at the end of the day, a ranking is a ranking. That's not, me trying to flex, but it's an opportunity for more people to discover this beautiful space that we are creating together. It is an opportunity for God to reach more eyes and ears and hearts. So I was just very excited to see that you guys have come alongside me to get this word out, to get the show out into more homes, more cars, more workplaces, and wherever you listen to your podcast. So thank you guys so much for getting us to 36. That was really an amazing, fun thing to see. Also, if you want to take a second to just pause and give this show a rating and review, what that means is, again, we can continue to build and grow this space together and just, reach more hearts. So if you're enjoying the podcast now that we're 5 episodes in, can you let me know what you've been enjoying? Share some dream guests that you guys maybe want me to go after and maybe some fun topics or real topics that you're really hoping that we'll touch on here. I would love that, again, just to hear from you guys. That is such an important piece of this whole thing, is making sure that I'm staying connected to y'all. And so if not here, make sure you guys are following along on the Instagram page. We have fun things over there for y'all at imfunnow.podcast. All right. I thought I'd give you guys just a fun little update on this is totally off topic, but just what's going on in my life right now. As y'all know, when Steve was on the show a couple weeks ago, he actually was diving into the beautiful art that is renovations. He is in a season of restoring this historic home in downtown Franklin. And so I popped in for the first time yesterday, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go in, meet the architects, and like just kind of see what Stevie's world is up to. Let me go support and just share my input where it's needed. And I kid you not, first of all, I walked into this place and it had been completely like the gutting process has begun. And it is like sticks in there. But it was also a little creepy vibes. I'm not going to lie. Like when I went into the home, I just saw things. When you start to lift things up, you start to see things that you're like, dang, I didn't see that through the walkthrough when we were, going and walking through the steps of like buying the house. And then once you lift things up, you start to see underneath the surface. Oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure there's like a family of raccoons that goes into this house late at night. Somehow, some way they're getting in, because it was just like you're seeing traces of stuff. Like the bathroom, once it was gutted and I kind of looked down, it just looked like a dark abyss. I was like, this is... it's giving end times in here, Steve. Like, what is going on? And he's just like reassuring me. He's like, this is the fun part, babe. And I'm like, excuse me, what? This is the fun part for you? Like, what does that do for you? Anyways, it somehow brings my husband so much joy when he's in this phase. And for me, I'm walking in and I'm immediately like, let me find the nearest mask to put on my face because I can smell the mold. I'm feeling the dust creeping onto my clothes, and it just had creepy vibes. And then we go outside, and I'm like, oh, thank God I can take this mask off and get some fresh air. And then I see that on the property, there is like this abandoned shed thing, and it literally goes far. Like it is this abandoned shed with like things growing on top of it now. It is like its own ecosystem of a world. And I just kind of took a peek in there, and I know I'm all about my antiques and stuff and like bib chic vibes. Y'all, when I looked inside of the shed, there was like abandoned chairs and things that looked like whatever the previous owner from 1970s vibes, they just left everything in the night and they escaped. I mean, it was just, I didn't even walk in there because I legit saw a cat. And I don't know why that freaked me out. I was just immediately like, this is gonna be torn down, right, Stevie? Anyway, Stevie's got his sleeves rolled up and he is loving that process. But I just walked into that and I was like, this is like not the fun part for me. But in 8 months, I can't wait for him to call me to go in there and to see when it's time to decorate the shelves and bring my TJ Maxx home good candles. And by the way, it sounds like TJ Maxx is sponsoring this show, and they ain't. But dang, they should. Again, wouldn't it be fun if I had a code or something? TJ Maxx, call me. Call us, okay? My whole outfit today is TJ Maxx. I'm wearing like orange trousers and this like brown checkered top with my, my F gold necklace. It's like my good luck. It's quickly becoming my fun good luck necklace. It's from Bobble Bar. And I love it. And if you want to actually shop any of my outfits, I will say I'll link them in the show notes. I feel like my outfits that I wear here are actually pretty intentional because I feel like I'm meeting you guys for coffee or something. So I get really excited to plan my outfits here. So I'm going to start doing a thing where just for fun, I'll share whatever I can link. I'll share it in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. Okay. So guys, I learned something fun over the weekend, and I want to share it with you guys. Did y'all know that there is a thing called glimmers? A glimmer is the opposite of trigger. We all know that trigger is something that sets you off. It could be the road rage that all of a sudden now you're just completely dysregulated. It could be your dog is barking so loud that now you are triggered and you feel dysregulated. It is just those things that just take you from feeling joy and just bringing you down. But opposite to that, contrary, a glimmer. And while we all know it is the opposite of a trigger, glimmers are those moments, okay, in your day that make you feel joy, happiness, peace, or gratitude. So once you train your brain to be on the lookout for glimmers, these tiny moments will appear more and more. We can have glimmer moments all throughout our day, kind of sprinkled onto our day. And I really love that because I realized walking into today that this whole thing, like I hope that you listening to this show and hanging out with me for the next 35 minutes or so, I hope that this would be a glimmer in your day today, just that little spark of joy. And that just, I don't know, that brought me so much joy because any way that we can all help to increase our well-beings, yes, give me more of that. So anyways, I want you guys to look for those glimmers, right? And when you get triggered, just know this too shall pass. We are going to get back to our glimmer state of mind. So I thought I would share that because since reading about it, I've just noticed now like the tiny little glimmers in my day. So we're going to get into Q&As today. And I think what's really fun about having this community here is that I feel like a lot of us have probably connected at some point or another, whether it's in real life, I've met some of you guys, or it's through the platforms, social media, all that jazz, where we've been able to like connect. And there seems to be so many topics and areas of life that you guys really are looking to have just a girl chat, honest advice session. Sometimes I have found that the best therapy is getting advice from people that aren't even like your closest friends or in your day-to-day life. And so if I can be that voice, that sound mind or that voice or just that encouragement for you today, I was like, let's do it. Let's just throw out a Q&A out onto the Instagram and let me just have you guys decide like what are the questions and the things in your life maybe right now that you're looking for some genuine advice. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm excited. Shall we? Okay. I have to say that one last thing. Y'all know how I love my story time with Sazans. You know how I started doing that whole series. I've also taken it to another level of obsession. I'm kind of really loving going back in time and reading about stories about people in history. I don't know why, but there's something about going back to the past to read about people that maybe aren't even in the history books and people that during their time when they were alive on earth, they didn't even realize the impact and the magnitude that they were going to have until after they were long gone. There is something so powerful and influential about that. It's that quiet influence, I guess. And so I decided that every so often on this show, whenever I can freaking remember, because I got mom brain, it'd be so fun to bring one of those stories here. So today I want to tell you about a woman. You may or may not know her from the past, from a time of 1843. And this woman's name was Ada Lovelace. So maybe some of you guys have heard of her, but I had never heard of this woman from 1843. And I read her story, and her story was that she quietly wrote notes in the margins of a man's engineering paper. Those notes contained the first computer algorithm, decades before computers even existed. She never lived to see her work recognized. And sometimes it says the loudest revolutions are written in the margins. Wow, that is a whole word and a half. Ada's story, it just reminds us, right, that our impact doesn't always look loud, right? Sometimes God writes our purpose in the margins, in the quiet ideas, the half-finished dreams, the gentle, like, what-ifs. You might not see the full picture yet. Maybe you guys are there in your lives right now, feeling unseen. But guess what? Your creativity, your laughter, even your faith, they're all part of a revolution that's unfolding one small act of courage at a time. And whether you see your work in this lifetime or the next or not, just know that God always has a purpose for your life. And going back to 1843, this woman, Ada, she doesn't even know, wow, what an impact she left behind now here in 2025. But that is the cool thing about God, how he writes our stories, how he is the author, and we get to be a part of his story. So I just loved that story about her, and it just feels so timely, y'all, as we've been talking a lot in these last few weeks about what are we leaving at the door? How are we stepping into this experience together and surrendering some of the things that we've held on to, that we've fixated on, and the things that we feel are actually things that we feel so unseen in too. Like, what about me, God? Like, what about my time, my moment? Just know that you are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. And it is in God's arms where he is going to continue to write our stories. So we just need to surrender to it and find peace in that. So that was just a little love note today as we're getting into this fun little Q&A episode from me to you and Ada Lovelace. So hopefully I said her name right, Ada Lovelace. If you guys have any fun stories, by the way, like that, could you send them over to me? I would love, love, love for us to continue this as a series, maybe little love notes from the past. If you guys know of like a fun story or a woman, you're like, Saz, you would love this woman's story, send it to me. Okay. DM the umfunnow.podcast Instagram page. All right. Going into the Q&A now, guys, shall we? Okay. I'm going to keep the names anonymous too, just for protecting your peace and privacy. I'm not trying to blast any of y'all because some of these questions go deep and real. So let's start with an easy question, shall we? My favorite prenatal pill. Like, this is such a talk about going deep. No, I love these questions because I'm actually in my vitamin era right now. I had blood work done in January and then a follow-up blood work appointment like a month ago. And I realized I cannot be skipping out on vitamins anymore. Something about your 30s gets real. Like, you've got to really take it seriously. Like, you can't just be skipping meals like that, like you did in your 20s. You can't be skipping your vitamins. So I actually am taking the Parallel Mom Pack, and I realize that's actually also a prenatal, but it gives you like your omega in the pack as well as like your beauty cocktail as well. So I love that combination of getting the multivitamin, but also like I need omega right now. I'm so deficient. And then just having the beauty in there with the collagen and all of that is so nice. And it literally comes in this little pack. So you just open the pack and your pills are right there. It's like 5 little pills. And give me a sparkling spicy water, I'm good. Like, I can take down all those pills at once, sister. And one of my followers actually messaged me one time and said a really easy way to take back your vitamins is not like hawking back your head like I always do. You just kind of press your fingers onto like where you're in between your cleavage area, like there right by your breastbone, right there in the center. If you push down right there and then you just swallow your pills, it just goes down smooth. And it works. It actually works. It's like right here. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see like it's right where my F is on this necklace. You just push down and then you just take your pill like normal. You don't got to like hawk it back. But I cannot take my pills without like a sparkling water, soda water. It makes it easier. So anyways, Parallel, it's a great brand. And yeah, maybe they'll sponsor us. Can we just get everybody free Parallel vitamins? Call me. Let's go. All right, next question. What current wedding trends would you have if you were to plan another wedding soon? Ooh, fun. Let me think. You know, I wish that I had a little bit more fun with color because now I love color. I mean, look, the bold, there's something so beautiful about having more color and celebrating life and beauty in color. My wedding was very much classic, timeless, beautiful. But I really wish I wasn't afraid to just incorporate more color. It doesn't matter the season. I would just find colors that either represent, I don't know, like parts of you that you love. Like if there's a color that you feel so drawn to, or there's a color that can symbolize something like, you know, how the color purple can just mean calm, lavender, like things like that. It'd be fun to like help tell the story of your relationship. So incorporating color where it makes sense. And I guess the other thing too is just instead of just the decor and just doing these larger than life venues, I love the idea of the intimacy, going super intimate and maybe investing more on like a really fun curated menu. Because if you do intimate, it means like you don't have to have 400 guests. Like the more intimate, the more creativity and fun you can have with just making it an experience for you, your husband, and your guests. So I love that, like fun cocktails, like personalization and authenticity to me is just like a chef's kiss when it comes to looking back on a wedding, because it's more about like not what does my wedding look like, but it's more like what we look like as a couple, and getting to like put on a little show for yourselves and the guests, like making that more fun. So I think that to me would be really fun, like the food stations and stuff. Me and Steve are such foodies that to me that would just add so much warmth and flavor, literally, and fun. Next question. What does it look like to surrender to God in your daily life as a mom? Oh my gosh. Well, I think that 3 kids in, I'm constantly learning this more and more, but it's just releasing the pressure to have to get it all right all the time. Because when we are on that hamster wheel, we are just like, I think, in autopilot mode, where we aren't even getting a chance to really sit and enjoy these kids and this life that we are constantly tending to, being the Marthas, trying to constantly keep everybody served and happy and loved. And it's like all of those things at heart can come from such a good place, but you have to really know, I think, when to stop and to just say, like, God, I trust you here too. Like, even by me not doing all of the things today, or if you see a moment where it's an opportunity to be with your child as they experience something, or you want to sit with them and do, like, I would say choose that all the time over going and doing the dishes. That is the biggest thing that I think I have learned really in this year alone, is that I do like order, I do like structure, but I'm just starting to see that surrender isn't passive, it's active faith in motion, And my kids are not going to look back on their life and say, oh my gosh, there was never a dish in the sink and I just loved that and it was so great. I'm not going to remember the chores that I did, 20 years from now. I'm going to remember the moments and the memories that I intentionally made with my kids. And I think that's where surrendering, for me, it has become that art form, choosing to surrender when I don't want to. It is like going against what's actually, nowadays, it feels more comfortable to just be the one that's like keeping the ship afloat and tidying and doing the chores, making sure all da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There's something about just walking away from it all, which feels like an act of worship, when you're just like, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm actually going to go against what I want to do, and I'm going to go sit with the Father, or sit with my kids, or go be with my kids, or I'm just going to leave the house, go have fun. That is what I'm learning about surrender. All right, next question. How do you find yourself again when you've lost your spark? Can I just say, if that is you right now and you're like, girl, I have lost my fun now spark, that's why I'm here. I'm hoping to find my spark again. I will tell you that I have just learned that sometimes when we are trying to find ourselves again, it feels like an act of chasing, like we're trying to run back to or run to that person or that version of ourselves. And I think when I learned that I had to stop chasing who I was and start embracing who I'm becoming, that is when I noticed God inviting me into finding this sort of new light in Him. And I just kind of began doing small, practical little things to have experience joy again. When you feel like your youth is stripped, like that's kind of when you become a mom, let's face it. Like it is the most liberating, beautiful thing, motherhood, because you really do feel like you've lost yourself, but in the process and in the journey, you actually realize, wow, I'm actually realizing who I am, who I've always been, but she hadn't like become that person yet, because like I needed to walk through motherhood. I needed to shed the old, and I think that so often we want to go back to what's familiar and what's safe and what feels comfortable. And I just know that God gives us this invitation in and through motherhood, if that's what has currently made you feel like you've lost your spark. I think that is where God really meets us and where we can challenge ourselves to find the glimmers, right? And for me, it was simple things in a season where you really feel like, how do you just like ignite that spark? Like it's like a match. I'm like struggling to ignite it. It really has to be simple, y'all. Like for me, it was putting on a dress. There was something about putting on a dress or getting ready every day, something little and tiny like that, that then turned into just trying one happy hobby that is outside of everything that I do in my home life, but it is something for me. And that little happy hobby for me was like, I kind of really found joy when I would do creative arts and crafts. I think like when I was sitting with my kids or coloring with them, that's when I noticed that little spark of like, wow, I forgot how nice it is to like sit and color in a coloring book. And now they have like adult coloring books, and now I get it. Now I know why. It's really cool when you take a little happy hobby for yourself and you just start to little by little, week by week, give yourself at least a carved out amount of time every week to really pour into that hobby. And you might notice for a time you're just loving like scrapbooking and just doing that. You get lost. You lose track of time. You might find that your hobby becomes joining like a running club or something like that. It's like just find something that is so simple, but that you have to say yes to and just slowly chip away at it. And I think that's where slowly but surely you can find that joy again, that glimmer in and through your day. And yeah, it's as simple as putting on a dress. What helped you heal your inner child and reconnect with your playful side? Wow, I feel like in mid 30s, like I can officially say I'm in my mid 30s. Wow. But it wasn't probably until the last 2 years of my life when I started feeling like I needed to go back. There was something in me. You start to notice patterns about yourself. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't like that I'm so quick to anger sometimes. Like I'm so quick, or I don't like that my default sometimes is to get up and go like at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And you start to notice these patterns about yourself. And I think it's in our 30s because we see how we just kind of free for all, just do whatever in our 20s because we're all just like on the hamster wheel of trying to make a living, figure out what we want to do with our lives, figure out what I like and what I don't like. It's like when you do enter your 30s, you are actually stepping into the era of really honing in on those things that you like and that you don't like. Things are more clear, I feel, in my 30s in terms of that stuff. But where the real work comes from, going back to the whole me stepping into that historic home with Stevie the other day, it feels like your mid 30s is like you're kind of starting to pull up and pull out like the floors beneath you, and you're starting to see what's underneath it. You're starting to see some of the things that have started to just like breed mold and and really just not, you just know it's off. You know something isn't right and you need to like go back and really like lay this foundation. For me, my inner child is still a work in progress because when you've been wired a certain way and you've grown up in a certain environment, it is only natural that those wirings, it is taking intentional time and energy. And it wasn't even up until this year when I started to even entertain the thought of maybe seeing like a therapist. I always thought therapy isn't for me. I don't think it is for me. Like, I think I'm very intuitive. I feel like spiritually, God is going to give me the wisdom and he's going to give me the answers. And I will say spiritual health is the most important to me leg of the branch because it really helps me stay in tune and keep my mental in track and in check. But I think the two actually go hand in hand. And so for me this year, it really has been, I haven't seen the therapist yet. I just met with one that I really love because she actually teaches, she helps coach you through spiritual and mental. Like she's a believer and I need, like for me, that's what I want is like where spiritual and mental go alongside each other in the journey. And so anyways, it's my first time and I've never done anything like that. So I guess I'll be the test dummy for going back and really working on some inner child stuff. And I don't know, maybe this is something I'll continue to open up and share. I'm not trying to be like private about it, but I definitely feel like there were things in my childhood that I look back on now and I'm like, that explains why I worry so much about certain things. That explains why my constant default is to go, 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 go. Like where did that come from? And I have few memories from my childhood where my parents really, like, specifically my mom, who's like my best friend today, but going back to childhood, like I have few memories remembering when my mom would just come and sit with me. Like I have more memories with my siblings than my parents because I came from a big family of 5. And my mom and dad were literally trying to make ends meet. And I'm not making excuses for them when I say this, but when I've analyzed it myself, I've noticed like there is a reason why I feel like it's hard for me to sit sometimes and even sit with my children. It goes back to inner childhood stuff that like I need to go back and roll up my sleeves and find healing and just understanding, I guess, because I'm not mad at my parents for not sitting and playing with me. But I noticed being third born, if I go back and I look at my patterns even as a child, like what were those emotional unmet needs that I did not get when I was a kid? And what are some of those fears that have now poured into my adult years in my mid-30s now that I sometimes fear because now that I have 3 kids, I really worry sometimes if like one of my kids is like not getting the love and attention that they need and that they deserve. And then I'm not giving myself grace because I'm like, no, like I hope she isn't like neglected or forgotten. And I wonder if some of that, comes from that childhood, some of those experiences that I had and didn't have as a child. And so for me, I am definitely doing that work now in my mid-30s. And who knows, maybe that, to answer your question, is something that I'm still figuring out. I don't have the answer, truthfully, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't feel like I've fully healed from my inner child. I feel like I'm still very much reconnecting with that little girl in me, and it'll be interesting in the coming weeks as I go and see this therapist, like how I can hopefully shed light too on that experience. And stay tuned. I'll bring more of that into the playground, I'm sure. How do you know the difference between God's peace and your own comfort zone? Ooh, that was a fire question, y'all. I think peace brings stillness even when the step feels scary. Like when you're stepping into something, like it just, you feel this stillness with peace. Whereas comfort zones, to me, it keeps you stagnant. Like you're not really moving in any direction. You're not really growing. But when you know you have God's peace, it feels like that peace is moving you forward. And it feels like it's a quiet confidence kind of a thing. Like it's not loud, it's like this quiet confidence. And you're like, okay, that's how you know you have that inner peace stepping into situations. I've learned that God's peace, it never, ever needs convincing. And I've also noticed that when you're wrestling with something and you're trying to like step into something, like when you're stagnant and you're sitting in your comfort zone out of just because you're afraid, like when you pinpoint why am I not moving forward? Why am I not doing this thing or this desire or this nudge, this thing that pulsates? Like I know God is maybe calling me into, but is the fear weighing you down more than God's love calling you higher and calling you out into that thing? We talked about that. We talked about how discernment is something that we should pray for, God giving us more discernment to be able to identify, right? The voice of the flesh versus the voice of the spirit. When you know that God is calling you into something, it's always going to be calling you out in love. He's going to call you up higher. When fear is trying to keep you and avoid you into stepping into the things that you want to be doing, that's where fear comes. That's where comparison, that's where you start to get down on yourself. You're just not giving yourself any love. That's where the anxiety heightens, the worry, you become angry, your mood, everything. Like, to me, that is all rattled from a place in the spirit that is not of God. And we have got to control that beast and let that beast know that it can knock all day, every day, but you ain't coming in, okay? You are not coming in through the door. Anything you invite in starts to rob you of your peace. So I would just really, if you're in a season feeling stagnant, if you feel like you're just the girl that like does not want to step out into her comfort zone, just know that you don't have to do it alone. There is a God that wants to do it with you and alongside you. And if it's not God, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it is somebody who you feel in your inner circle could be your accountability friend, partner. And I would reach out to those people. I would cling to the friendships that are around you. And if you don't have that, just know that the most important relationship that we all should have and can have, and it's free, is our relationship with Jesus Christ. And I'm like, yes, sign me up, because if all else fails, when you know that you are with him in it, girl, he has got you, and he is going to, again, increase your awareness and your discernment and help guide your steps if you step out of the kiddie pool. That's the way that I see a comfort zone. You are swimming in a kiddie pool, and sometimes in some seasons, you need to give yourself the grace and maybe stay in that. You know, for me, it was postpartum era. Like, I'm not trying to go out and conquer the world when I'm in that season. So know your seasons. But when you feel like you're stuck in that comfort zone, I'm talking to you, girl. You know who you are. I feel like when you know it's been time, like you should have actually stepped out of this 2 years ago, but you're still in that kiddie pool. It is scary when you go out into the depths of the ocean. But if that is where God is calling you to go, you know that the deeper you go, the more you are going to experience in his peace, his love, his joy. So much more is out there for you and your purpose when you take a risk in faith. And it just requires courage, and it requires the right timing. And sometimes we get afraid because we're like, oh my gosh, the timing has to be perfect or else I can't. That's where we really have to lean into the Holy Spirit to guide us with the right timing, because the harvest is only there for so long, and God's timing is way better than our timing alone. Like, we will never achieve even the greatest ideas when it's on our time. So when you know that the Lord has said to you, it is time, it has been time, and now you feel like maybe God's been a little quiet lately, sometimes that silence is the answer. That, like, girl, step out in faith and God will meet you there. You know he will. So don't be afraid. All right, next question. This one is kind of fun. How do I approach a guy at the gym? Okay, hold on, girl. Well, first of all, it depends what gym you're going to, because some of these gyms, when you walk around and you just kind of just check out the lay of the land, especially from what I hear from my single girlfriends, they're just like, what is up with all the guys that are just grunting and huffing and puffing while they're lifting their weights and working out? That is an immediate ick. Anyways, if you see a guy that seems approachable and he seems kind and he seems sweet, what I would do if I were you is I would kind of like, I'm just picturing Stevie. Like, if I saw him and I never knew him, I would probably smile at him. That requires some guts to smile at anyone nowadays. But here's what you have to do. You have to be practicing. So like when you're at the grocery store or you're driving in your car and you stop at a stoplight, you have to kind of practice smiling at strangers first, so that when you are at the gym and you see the guy that you're having a kind of a crush on, your smile needs to be like fully, I've practiced this is showtime. And you give him that smile. And then I would probably at some point, maybe not the same exact gym visit, but if you kind of notice that his patterns are like he likes to work out the same time I do, I would probably go up to the guy at some point and just be like, hey, when you're done with those weights, like, is it cool if I use them? And just kind of be sweet. Let's assume that he's not lifting more than like 20 pounds, because girls, like, we're not trying to lift like 70 pounds. So maybe that wouldn't help. If you were like, hey, can I borrow those weights when you're done? He's going to be like, you lift 80 pounds in one dumbbell? Like, I don't know. Sorry. That probably wasn't the best advice. Next question. How often do you think there should be the sexies in marriage? First of all, I love how you said that. I think that intimacy is probably one of the most important pillars to have in a marriage. I will say that there are seasons of your marriage where you're just like, dang, we've been on a little bit of a dry spell. Like, it doesn't mean you don't want your man, but at the same time, there's seasons where you're literally tired and you're like, I really just can't right now. Like, I'm so tired. And I've fallen into that. Like, I have not been the best in seasons where when I'm tired, it's like nothing trumps. Like, my sleep is my sleep and it will always win over. And I have had to learn that that actually has created habits in my marriage where me and Steve are like fighting more, we're like arguing more, we're just more disconnected. And one of my mentors said it best. She does like marital counseling for couples. And she shared with me that she said most young couples who come in and they talk about this, they're like, I'm fighting with my husband more. We're just like feeling so disconnected, like not getting along, whatever the friction is. She says that she always recommends to them that one, you don't go longer than 3 days without having your sexiest time with your husband. And she said, two, read this book. And the book is Keep Your Love On. It's a book that I've shared before. I love, love, love it. Me and Stevie have actually read it together. It is an amazing book on just communication, which is another intimacy in our relationships with our partners that can sometimes take a back seat because of life and babies and work and just all the things. So she said those two things right there, when couples tell me that they're doing those two things, she was like, it solves the problem. Like there's no more, like it's okay, we're good now, you know? And I thought that was so interesting, and it's actually true. I know friends who have scheduled their sexies time. I don't know if that's something that I personally can do. Like, first of all, I have a shared calendar with people who work with me. So it's like, could you imagine? I'm like, Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday's our sexies time. Maybe I could be a little bit incognito about it and just like call it something mysterious. I don't know. Uh, Stevie and Saz after dark. I don't know, but I will say that intimacy is something that there are going to be times where you're not feeling it, but like at the end of the day, either you or your partner, you guys, you need it. Like, you've got to make sure that you put your partner first. And I found that in seasons of life where if Stevie and I are both having that mentality going into our day or even into our marriage, is like, how can I put you first before me? If that right there, it's like you can do no wrong because you are constantly thinking about the other person. And so as I'm constantly thinking about him, he's constantly thinking about me. And so sexiest time, you've got to have it. And I believe that, I don't know, I just have found so much. It's going to sound crazy when I say this, but even when I'm in a season when I'm feeling like the enemy is just attacking our family, or I'm just feeling so attacked, when I am intimate with my husband, it is basically like the enemy flees. He knows that like we are so connected. You are not coming between this family tree or this marriage. And so when I just like have that time with my man, I'm like, yes. And there's so many ways that you can keep it spicy. It doesn't have to be this like, so I don't know, like it doesn't have to be a boring thing. Like my intimacy with Steve, it is just so amazing because we actually like, we sit and we like lay and talk and stuff. Like it's not just this like do it and get it done. So much of it is an emotional piece too, where we are connected, and then it leads into our intimacy time. And it just is so beautiful, something that I celebrate, that I love. And I know one day, I've got 2 daughters. I've got to have the conversation about the birds and the bees before anybody else tells them about it. And so it's not something that, it shouldn't have shame attached to it. It shouldn't be something that like we can't talk about. And so that is something that I'm learning even with my intimacy, is like we have to be talking about this. And I'm glad that you asked that question, honestly, because I rarely have answered questions about that. I think there's just a stigma, or let's not talk about what happens behind private closed doors. It feels like this like taboo topic, but I think intimacy, it is so important that we continue to water that and that we have that. But girl, I've been there too. I've been on dry spells where it's like, what? We have not been intimate in how long? Like, this is not okay. And now we notice that. We notice it and we're like, no. So anyways, it's just that 3-day rule. Okay, I'm thinking of doing content creation, but I'm scared. Oh my gosh. Content creation is a beast. Let's face it. I'm not trying to scare you even more with that, but I will say that treat it like a hobby for yourself. You don't even have to put the page on public if you don't want to. If you just need to spend some time getting into the rhythm of and the bravery of just putting yourself out there. I am like almost 14, 15 years into doing this kind of stuff where you talk on a microphone and you like create content. And I don't know how I may come off to y'all, but when I watch myself back and when I hear my voice sometimes, like when I've heard and listened to some of these episodes back, I'm like, why are you talking over your guests? Let them finish their thought. Why are you so like not finishing your sentences? You've got run-ons. Like, I can totally look at myself from an analytical standpoint, and I can be so critical. I think we all can. And sometimes when we hear our voice, we're like, oh my gosh, when I hear the sound of my voice, I can't watch it. I actually shared a video of when it got to interview, like, I think it was like almost like before I even started social media. It was in college. I got to interview the co-founder, the OG co-founder of Instagram. Did anyone see that on my IG page? I found that interview. It's like a 4-minute interview. And I go back and first of all, seeing myself like rewind. Oh my gosh. I had like neon orange pants on. I'm realizing I'm literally wearing the same color pants right now. Oh my gosh. Except they're trousers. Okay. Look, they're trousers. So the other ones were like skinny jean, bright neon with a red lip. Look, you can't take the girl out of the pants. But here's what I will say. Hearing myself interviewing him, there were so many things I was like, this is so cringe to hear myself. But at the same time, it was such a wholesome thing to watch. And then I ended up even sharing a clip from it because it just shows you when you're in that moment. I remember I was panicking and freaking out about what questions I was going to ask the head of Instagram at the time. This was an app at the time that was just beginning to boom. It was before Meta took over it, and I got to interview the co-founder. And I remember putting the pressure on myself, like, I want to be this Barbara Walters. I have to be this Barbara Walters, like, interviewer. I need to come in prepared with the best questions. And it's so funny when I look back now, what I would tell that girl is like, you did a great job for what it was, and don't overthink it. That is what stops us so often from just pressing go on the things and the hobbies and the desires in our hearts is we overthink it, and that usually it kind of talks us out of just doing it. And I think that's what I miss the most about that season where you're just like you're fresh, like going back to the post college girl that's just like post grad. There's something really fresh about a clean slate of like, you do get to embark upon this chapter and try new things. And so I would say if content creation is something that you've wanted to get into, but you're just like worried about performance, or you're worried about how others are going to perceive you, or how you're going to perceive yourself, or how are you going to consistently do this, or like spend time, money, and energy investing in the tools and the equipment or what, like, I would say make a list and keep it as simple as possible for yourself. Make a list of all of the things that you have that you know that you can utilize. So like, you don't need to go out and buy the expensive camera. You probably have a phone, so that's what you can use. And just make this as easy for yourself in the beginning and don't overthink it. And that's something that I am still today, 14 years later as a content creator, I'm still having to tell myself that at the top of every single week when I'm stepping into these places and spaces. I'm constantly having to tell myself, Saz, do not overthink it. Do not overthink it. Do not overthink it, because that's where I spiral. So hopefully that helps you and me too. What's something your kids have taught you about joy lately? Kids are amazing. I think God uses them as our greatest teachers, real talk. And Teeny just humbles me, my 7-year-old. The things that she says and does, I'm like, whoa, you are getting way too big and it's making me feel all the feels. But what they've taught me is that like joy, it doesn't need a reason. And that is the coolest thing about when you see a kid just being a kid. It's a really beautiful ministering moment to us as adults, because when kids, they are stepping into joy, they don't even realize it is like this intentional thing. They're just being and doing and existing, but they don't wait for perfect timing. And I think that's where the older we get, the more set in our ways we get, the harder we get on ourselves, the more critical, the more strategic. And I just love that children find delight in now. And that is something I think is so beautiful that I really hope that we can cultivate here on Fun Now, is to never forget that, to never forget that childlike innocence and joy. That's been a huge heart check for me lately. I've just loved seeing joy through my kids, whether it's Oliver finding joy when he just goes outside by himself to the backyard now, and he just goes outside and he knows where the trampoline is and he just climbs up those steps, and I'm looking at him through the window and I'm just seeing him like jumping up and down on this trampoline, and his curly little hair, like a little afro, it's just like moving with the waves of the wind. And I just look at him and he's laughing and giggling to himself as he's just in this moment. And that is just so powerful. It is like God uses our kids, right, to teach us how to continue to live in the now instead of our minds constantly fleeing into what I need to get done next, the next thing, this, that, the future. It's like, where are we all going? What are we all chasing? We can't forget to just stop right now and just be present where our feet are. And that's just what my kids have taught me in this season, is just loving joy and stepping into it in the moment. In my 30s, and I would like to know how to make friendships like the ones you have. Ooh, that is a great question that I get asked so often. We took a trip in May to Greece, and me, John, and Stevie, we put feelers out there. We'd never done anything like this before. But I just said, you know what? It'd be really fun to do like a trip. That was like on my Fun Now list. Before I even launched this podcast, I was like, I would love to go on a trip with some of my online community, like some of these followers that like I actually have grown to love and adore. I just want to put the feelers out there. And so we did a very intimate trip with like 35 people. And we said, let's go to Greece and let's take 35 people with us. And it was such a beautiful thing on this trip because it opened my eyes to what I think so many people in our generation are craving, and that is real human connection. You can take the AI and the social media and even the texting and the WhatsApps and all of that digital connection stuff, but it does not even come close to real human connection. I've seen that in my household offline, but I saw it on this trip. And so it was cool to see that a majority of the girls who came on this trip, most of them were single girls from different places and spaces. And these girls were amazing. Like, they had their head on their shoulders. These women, maybe some of you guys are listening right now, like, I just fell in love with this group of women that came, which honestly, I had no decision on this. Like, we just put the feelers out and we were like, all right, whoever goes through the whole process and signs up, we know God, it's like a God thing. Like, they're supposed to be there, and great. So the people that ended up coming on this trip, it was so cool to see that a majority of them were actually single girls. A lot of them were believers. Some of them weren't, but it was really amazing to see a lot of them were single girls who, I remember a couple of them, we had some heart-to-hearts, and they were telling me like, man, I really admire your friend group. You know, like what I've seen, because I follow all of you guys, is like you guys have just somehow, some way cultivated something that feels very genuine and authentic, and you celebrate one another, and you're all in different seasons of life. Some of you are single, some of you are married, some of you have kids, some of you don't, but it is so beautiful and rich, and I wish I had that. And I just realized on that trip, I thought, whoa, this is really beautiful. And I think I take it for granted sometimes in my friendship circles. And it just, first of all, made me stop and thank God for what I have, because here I am hearing the hearts and the cries of these women, and they're like, I wish I had that. And I also realized that a lot of these women, what they left with on this trip was they had felt like they had gotten a taste of that community through what we did on the trip. So it wasn't so much that we were in Greece and that we were getting to do all these things, but it was more so that these women got to be in a circle of other women who are also the single ones in their friend groups. And sometimes you feel like when you're in your day-to-day life, you feel like the outlier of your friend group because your best friend, who you are so happy for, you're not diminishing her blessing, but like she's the married girl who has kids. So you feel at times like either a burden or an inconvenience, or maybe you constantly feel like you're having to step into her world because she is the one with the kids right now and she is the busier one. But I just wanted to say to anybody who's in that situation, if you are a married woman or friend to someone who you know is single, can we just like put a little pretend homework right now on this and say, can we all actually do something outside of ourselves? I know you might be drenched in motherhood right now. I know you might have a lot going on with your kids' schedules, but can we all pretend homework, reach out to somebody that we know and love who's single, and can we do something for that person, inviting them in? Or maybe we go into their world, sit with them. Maybe it's a coffee date. For me, I'm going to be something that came to mind while I'm saying this pretend homework is, I have a friend who's about to be a mom. She's about to have her second child. It's like, I'm gonna make her my shifta, my mom's famous shifta. It's my favorite comfort meal. I need to do that for her. That's gonna be my thing. What is something that you can do for someone that you can just reach out to? That's pretend homework. So side note that. And then also what I want to tell anybody, and then something similar that I told the girls on this trip was I've found that it's small, consistent circles that you can put yourself into. It's where you kind of start to cultivate relationships with. So whether it's a small group at church, being a room mom, you're in a season where you've got some time, maybe becoming a room mom where you're going to be able to meet other moms. Or maybe it is going to a specific place at that time every week where little by little friendship can quietly start to grow. So I think of a farmer's market. I love Saturdays in Franklin at the farmer's market. And I've noticed it's starting to feel like it's a community. Like you go there and you see the same people again. Like even at the gym, as silly as that sounds, I know the gym doesn't always have the best rep for making friendships, but at the same time it can. And so I would just take a little leap of faith and find those little small circles that you can start to just participate in. Or maybe sign up for the trip. Sign up for a trip. I don't know if I'm going to do I don't know when or if I'm going to do another trip like that. The takeaway I got from that trip, which was really beautiful, by the way, was that when I asked everybody what the highlight was of the trip, it was amazing that all of those girls we got to do some cool things in Greece. We got to see some amazing sights, but I was mind blown when 99% of everybody on the trip said, the best part was the community here. Like we all formed this really unique bond, this out of this world bond that wouldn't have happened any other way. And that lit my heart on fire to see that God invited me to facilitate something like this, and then to see it had nothing to even really do with me. And then the girls all started to create a sisterhood within the trip. And now they all still keep in touch. Like that to me felt like, wow, that was amazing. And it was even more amazing knowing that next time I can actually do it domestically. I can easily do this in Nashville. And yeah, the girls would probably come. It wasn't about seeing these larger than life attractions. So that was really sweet. And I love that the girls now have that connection on the trip. So I don't know, maybe I should do another thing like that because I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy putting yourself out there, but thank you for that sweet note about my friends. And my prayer is that in this season, as you step out, even if it's just an inch into those little circles, my prayer for you is that God is going to bring you the exact person that you need in your life. Notice I said person. You don't need tons of people to feel like you have a sense of community. It can start with just the quiet friendships, the little friendships there. So I'm praying that if you're in that season of loneliness or isolation, or you're ready to spread your wings and make some friends, good friends, I pray that whether it's at the small group of you stepping into that church, whether it's you going to the farmer's market, whether it's you continuing joining a running club, like whatever that is, I'm praying that God would have like-minded people there that you would connect with and that you would find friends. And a year from now, maybe I'll hear from you and you'll tell me the story about that. All right, guys. Well, I think that is all we have time for today. Wow, those questions just zoomed by. I hope that this advice warmed your hearts. I hope that you are leaving today with some encouragement. I definitely know that I felt the love. I felt the love in this episode. I appreciate you guys sending in those questions. And also, side note, it's kind of fresh on my heart. So a lot of like these topics and things that I bring into the show, I really want to sit and pray about it before I step into this space and just do the thing. So something that God's been putting on my heart is doing an episode on breakups. Like let's talk about heartbreak seasons. Is anybody in a heartbreak season right now and you're just like, girl, please, yes. I'm interested to know if God is putting this on my heart because there is a need for it right now. If there is, will you please let me know? Will you please either message me on the umfunnow.podcast Instagram page, or will you go into the show notes and please just give me a thumbs up and saying yes, please, to the heartbreak episode. I'm feeling like all I have right now, the vision for it, what God is giving me for it is it's time to break up with your heartbreak. That is what he's showed me. It is time to break up with heartbreak. That's all I got so far. But if that is speaking to you or you felt that on a soul level, will you let me know? That is just kind of starting to brew, and I'm thinking about that for an upcoming episode. All right, guys. Well, remember, you can always follow and watch this on video too. It's a whole different experience when you watch these episodes on video. On my YouTube channel, which is just at Sazan on YouTube, you're going to find every single I'm Fun Now episode uploaded there. So whether you want to have it playing while you're folding your laundry or you just want to connect more via video, check us out there. And then, yeah, like I said, if you could leave a rating and review, if you love this episode, if you also want to help me continue to get the message out on this episode and build it and grow it, the more we can grow this, the more I believe God is going to continue to leverage this show, not just in the charts, but I want to take this show and I want to reach people who don't even know Jesus, that are going to stumble upon this show and be like, wait, what is that about? What is that really fun, colorful? It's making me feel the joy, the happiness. It's drawing them in. I know that the more that we go in together and we rate and review, and that will help us in the algorithms of these places and spaces, which are a beast, and it will just allow us to reach more eyes. And I am ready to grow there, girl. Like, let's go out there into the world and pull more sisters into this space. So any way that we can all do that, linking arms, it helps me so much. So tell a friend about this episode or this podcast. And also don't forget to follow us on the Instagram page, which my personal is at Sazan. And then the Instagram page at umfunnow, just umfunnow.podcast. I love you all so much. And to end this, I always ask people, and I'm going to ask you guys, what is one glimmer, right? One fun thing in your life right now. It can be anything. If I had to pick, man, it's so hard, but if I had to pick, I would say that right now I am absolutely loving that my little boy, Oliver, who he's in a season where he gets to be home more with us because Teeny and Amari are at school. So me getting to have that time with him has been so sweet, and I have officially put him on to Charlie Brown. Oh my gosh, the classic. I'm talking the classic. Now I do love the Peanuts, the new movie on Prime. That one's a good one too, the newer one. But he loves Charlie Brown, and he'll wake up and he'll be like, Mom, Charlie Brown, Charlie Brown. And I'm just like, I can't take you seriously with your hair. Get over here right now so I can smell your breath and eat you up. So that's what I'm excited to do. Go home and watch Charlie Brown with my little Oliver. I love y'all so much. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. Until next week, I love y'all. Bye.